I looked across the table at my husband, Mark, and felt the air leave my lungs. He sat there, perfectly relaxed, his fork hovering over the mashed potatoes with the casual demeanor of a man who hadn't just pulled the pin on a grenade. "Excuse me?" I asked, my voice a whisper, drowned out by the clatter of my mother-in-law, Patricia, arranging the centerpiece. Mark's smirk widened. He leaned in, his voice a low, conspiratorial murmur that only I could hear. I said, "This was meant to be a happy day. Yet you look like you're attending a funeral, sweet art." It was the first dinner of the new year, the year that was supposed to be new beginnings. The dining room was a cacophony of his family's voices, all loud and overlapping, the crystal glasses clinking, the scent of roast beef fighting with the heavy floral perfume of his mother's Gucci. Patricia was a master of the passive-aggressive compliment, and she'd already told me 3 times in the last hour how radiant I looked, which was her code for "you're still fat." Before I could form a coherent retort, the main reason for our collective misery was announced. The doorbell chimed, a sound that made the entire room go still. Patricia's hand, reaching for the gravy boat, froze midair. My father-in-law, Richa Road, who had been staring blankly at his soup, suddenly snapped to attention. "Don't just stand there. Someone get the door." Patricia hissed, her eyes wide with a panic that was completely uncharacteristic for the matriarch of the family. The man who walked in was a ghost. Except he was wearing a ridiculously expensive cashmere coat and a smile that was all teeth. "Uncle H.A. rolled," Mark whispered, his smirk fading into something more akin to surprised. H.A. rolled. The estranged brother. The one who'd been written out of the family story, cast off like a bad actor in a long-running soap opera. He was a legend, a cautionary tale whispered at family gatherings. "Your Uncle H.A. rolled," they'd say, shaking their heads. "He threw it all away." And, by it all, they meant the family construction business. Richa Road, the steady, reliable older brother, had taken over from their father. H.A. Rolled had been the prodigal son, the visionary who had left to pursue some wild tech venture in Silicon Valley. The family had never forgiven him for it. They acted as if he'd died. Richa Road Patricia. H.A. Rolled's voice was smooth, like bourbon. He didn't look at me or Mark, his focus entirely on his brother and sister-in-law. "Don't look so thrilled to see me. I know I'm the last person you expected at your perfect table." Richa RD stood up slowly, his napkin falling from his lap. "How did you know we were here?" he asked, his voice strained. "Does it matter?" H.A. Rolled asked, taking a step into the room. He finally let his gaze drift, landing on Mark and me. And this must be the son and his new bride. "I saw the announcement in the Times." "You look like a catch," he said, his eyes scrutinizing me with a cold, calculated gleam. "Mark, you've done well for yourself. Better than your father did when he was your age, I'd imagine." Patricia was on her feet, her posture rigid. "This is a family dinner," H.A. rolled. "If you have some agenda, I'd appreciate you stating it so we can get back to our meal." It was a direct hit. H.A. Rolled didn't flinch. He simply pulled a folded document from his inner pocket. It was a plain, legal-looking document. "I'm not here to interrupt your little celebration. I'm here to deliver a message." He placed the document on the polished oak table, right in the center, over the spot where the gravy boat was supposed to go. "Your DEA, our father's will has been finalized. He wanted you all to see it." The air in the room was suffocating. The will. This was the family's holy grail, the thing that had been dangled over everyone's head for decades. The source of all the tension, the whispered resentments, the manipulation. We were on the precipice of a massive inheritance. At least that's what Mark and his brothers had been groomed to believe. They were second-generation wealth. They operated in a world of expectation, not of actual means. Mark, the second son, had been told his whole life that if he played by the rules, married the right girl, his mother's choice, not mine, and stuck to the family business, he'd be right. And I, his girl from a nursing family, as Patricia liked to call my mother's profession, was the variable they couldn't control. We'd had to fight tooth and nail for a wedding that was less grand affair and more financial negotiation, and Patricia made sure we never forgot it. Richa Road picked up the document, his face pale. He scanned it quickly, his lips moving silently. He looked up at H.A. Rold, his face a mask of disbelief. This can't be right. The lawyer assured me it's ironclad, H.A. Rold said, his tone bored. Father made his decision years ago. He just wanted to make sure you felt the sting of it at a time when he knew you'd be feeling your most entitled. What does it say? Patricia demanded, her voice shrill. Richa Road. What does it say? Richard's hands shook as he let the paper fall to the table. The print was small and dense, but the final line was written in a larger, bolder font. It read, "My entire estate, including all Shaw residential of the family corporation, the main estate in Connecticut, the APA retment in the city, and all liquid assets, is to be liquidated and donated to the H.A. Rold and M.A.R.G.A. Rhett Turner Foundation." Donated, Patricia shrieked. The word echoed off the crystal. "I'm the namesake," H.A. Rold said, his grin returning. "No money for you, Richa Road. Not for M.A.R.K. or his brothers. Not for the grandchildren either. It's all going to my foundation. For the betterment of others. You know, the poor, the downtrodden. The people who actually need it." My brain was struggling to process the scene. This was the money that was supposed to secure our future. The money that M.A.R.K. used to justify his mother's constant interference in our lives. The money that was meant to get us out of debt from our ridiculous, overpriced wedding that Patricia had orchestrated. It was gone. Not reduced. Gone. All of it. M.A.R.K. was sta ring at his plate, his knuckles white as he gripped his fork. He didn't look at his father or his mother. He just sta read at the gravy that was congealing on the china. Patricia turned on me, her eyes blazing with a fury she'd always reserved for me. "This is your doing," she S&A relayed, jabbing a finger in my direction. "You bewitched him. You're a bad luck charm. You and your family. You've brought ruin to us." I felt the blood drain from my face. "Excuse me," I managed to say, my voice trembling. "You heard me," Patricia spat. "Ever since you came into this family, it's been one disaster after another. M.A.R.K. didn't have a backbone anymore. And now this. You probably orchestrated this entire thing. Did you seduce H.A. Rold too?" It was my turn to be on my feet. I wasn't going to take this. Not anymore. You've been blaming me for everything since the moment M.A.R.K. and I got engaged. But I didn't lose your money. Your father did. Or rather, your father-in-law did. It's just money. And I'm glad it's gone. It's the only thing that ever had any value in this house. The room erupted. M.A.R.K.'s older brother, Jason, chimed in, calling me ungrateful. His wife, Susan, who had been perfectly silent, finally spoke, siding with Patricia. The dining room was no longer a place of civility. It was a war zone of raised voices and flying accusations. I needed air. I grabbed my purse and made a dash for the front door, feeling the weight of a dozen pairs of eyes on my back. M.A.R.K. remained frozen, a statue in the middle of the chaos. He didn't call after me outside. The cold December air bit at my cheeks, a welcome contrast to the claustrophobic heat inside. The neighborhood, one of the most affluent in the state, was silent. Christmas lights twinkled on immaculate lawns, mocking the scene I'd just fled. I took a deep breath. I was finally free. The family that had judged my every move now had nothing left to dangle over my head. They were ordinary people, just like the rest of us. But as I walked towards the main street, a thought began to gnaw at me. "A terrible, nading suspicion. RK." He hadn't looked surprised. When Patricia had shrieked about the money, when Richa Road had dropped the will, M.A.R.K. hadn't been shocked. He'd been resigned. His smirk at the dinner table, the one that had sta root this whole spiral, hadn't been about my mood. It had been about the news. He knew that I stopped walking and leaned against a lamppost, my breath forming clouds in the freezing air. It wasn't just that the money was gone. It was that M.A.R.K. had known it was gone. He had known the moment H.A. Rold walked in, and he hadn't even blinked. He had anticipated this. He had let me walk in blind to be ambushed by his family. He had let his mother blame me for a situation he had full knowledge of. The crisp, clean air of the New Year's evening suddenly felt dirtier than the smoke-filled dining room. I had just been set up, not for the money, but for the blame. And as the reality of our situation hit me, our debts, our marriage built on the foundation of a fortune that no longer existed, my husband's complete betrayal, I realized the real war was just beginning. My phone buzzed in my coat pocket. I pulled it out, expecting Mark finally coming to his senses. But it was a text from an unknown number. Don't believe everything you saw tonight. The real money was never in the will. Call me when you're ready to know the truth.
Ash.
I read at the screen, my thumb hovering over the call button.
Harold.
He had planted a seed. A trap, or a lifeline. My heart was pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. I was standing on a silent street in the wealthiest zip code in the state, completely alone, completely broke, and completely betrayed. And the one person who might have the answers was the same person who had just thrown a bomb into the middle of my life. My thumb moved before my brain could stop it. I pressed the green button. The line rang once.
Twice.
A third time. Hello, sweetheart. Harold's voice drawled on the other end. I was wondering when you'd call. Walk 2 blocks north. I'll be waiting in the black SUV. We have a lot to discuss. He hung up before I could respond, and I looked up at the cold, clear sky. Orion's belt was visible, a constellation I always looked for when I needed CLA righty. But there was no CLA righty tonight. Only questions. And one very dangerous man waiting for me in a black SUV. I slipped the phone back into my pocket, took a breath that burned my lungs, and route walking north. The black SUV was exactly where Harold said it would be, idling under a dead oak tree at the corner of Maple and Sycamore. The engine hummed softly, a low purr that seemed out of place in the silent, pristine neighborhood. I approached slowly, my heels clicking against the pavement, each step feeling heavier than the last. The our window rolled down, and Harold's face emerged from the shadows. He looked older in the dim light, the sharp angles of his jaw softened by the glow of the dashboard road. Get in, he said, his voice rhying that same bourbon-smooth quality. We don't have all night. I hesitated, my hand gripping the door handle. Every instinct screamed at me to walk away, to go back to the APA meant I read with Mark and pretend tonight had never happened. But the image of Mark's smirk, the way he'd let his mother into me without a word of defense, pushed me 4-way road. I opened the door and slid into the leather seat. Harold didn't start driving. He just sat there, his hands resting on the steering wheel, his eyes fixed on the road ahead. You're SMA ruder than they give you credit for, he said. Most people would have gone home, cried into their pillows, and spent the next 10 years wondering what went wrong. What do you want from me? I asked, my voice steadier than I expected. He turned to look at me then, his expression unreadable. I want to show you something. The will was a distraction. A performance. That piece of paper was written 3 years ago, long before my father's health route to decline. Richard knew about it.
Patricia knew about it.
Even Mark knew about it. The words hit me like a physical blow. Mark knew. Of course he knew. He's been planning for this for months. He didn't marry you because he loved you, sweetheart. He married you because he needed a scapegoat. I felt the blood drain from my face. That's not true. Isn't it? Harold reached into the glove compartment and pulled out a manila folder, thick with documents. He handed it to me. Read it. Everything's in there. The accounts, the transfers, the secret partnerships. Your husband has been siphoning money from the family business for over a year. He set up shell companies, hidden accounts. When the will was read and everyone believed the money was gone, he was planning to move everything offshore and disappear. I opened the folder, my hands trembling. The first page was a bank statement showing a balance of over $700,000 in an account under a name I didn't recognize. The next page was a series of emails, correspondence between Mark and and a lawyer in the Cayman Islands. The dates went back 18 months. When did you find all this? I asked, my voice a whisper. 2 months ago. I hired a private investigator after my father told me what Richa Road and Patricia were really up to. They've been bleeding the company dry for years, hiding the losses, covering their tracks. Richa Road is a terrible businessman. Always has been. The only reason the company survived this long is because my father kept bailing him out. But the old man finally had enough. He changed the will, yes, but he also left a secondary trust. One that only you can access. I looked up, my eyes wide. What are you talking about? H.A. Rold smiled. A thin, calculating smile that didn't reach his eyes. My father was a lot of things, but he wasn't stupid. He knew that when the will was read, the family would TR itself apart. He also knew that Richa Road and Patricia would blame you for everything. That's why he set up a separate trust, one that's tied to your name. It's not much, about $2 million RS, but it's enough to give you a fresh START. All you have to do is file the paperwork. There's a lawyer in the city who has the details. His name is David Chun. I read at him, trying to process the information. Why would your father do that? He rely knew me. H.A. Rold's expression softened. Just a fraction. He knew more than you think. He saw how Patricia treated you at the engagement party, how Richa Road dismissed you. He told me once that you were the only one in the family who didn't want anything from him. That meant something to him. I closed the folder, my mind racing. The betrayal from Mark was a deep, festering wound, but the thought of his grandfather, a man I'd met only a handful of times, leaving me a lifeline was almost too much to comprehend. Where is Mark now? I asked. Probably still at the dinner table, playing the victim. He doesn't know about the trust. No one does, except you, me, and the lawyer. If I were you, I'd keep it that way. Why are you telling me this? What do you get out of it? H.A. Rold laughed, a dry, humorless sound. I get to watch Richa Road and Patricia squirm. I get to see my brothers see a refully constructed world crumble. And I get to help the one person in this family who actually deserves a second chance. Consider it my New Year's gift. He root the engine and pulled away from the curb, the streetlights casting long shadows across the interior. I'm taking you to a hotel downtown. You need sleep, and you need to think. Tomorrow you call David Chun, and you secure that trust. After that, you decide what kind of future you want. What about Mark? What about him? H.A. Rold's voice was cold. He made his choice.
He chose the money over you.
Now it's time for you to choose yourself. We drove in silence for the next 10 minutes, the city lights flickering through the tinted windows. I clutched the manila folder to my chest, feeling the weight of the documents inside. $2 million RS. It wasn't the fortune the family had hoarded for generations, but it was enough. Enough to pay off the wedding debt, enough to START over, enough to never have to see Patricia's smug face again. The hotel was modest, a boutique place tucked away on a side street. H.A. Rold pulled up to the entrance and handed me a key. CA Road, room 312. I've already paid for 3 nights. Don't tell anyone where you are. Not your friends, not your family, and especially not your husband. I took the key. CARD, my fingers brushing against his. What happens after 3 nights? That depends on you. You can walk away, take the money, and START a new life. Or you can stay and fight. But if you choose to fight, you need to be prepared for the consequences. Mark will do everything in his power to destroy you. Patricia will make sure your reputation is ruined. Richa Road will try to tie you up in legal battles for your RS.
Are you ready for that?
I looked at the hotel entrance, the warm glow of the lobby spilling onto the sidewalk. I don't know, I admitted. But I know I can't go back to the way things were. H.A. Rold nodded, a flicker of approval in his eyes. That's the right answer. Now go.
Get some rest.
And whatever you do, don't trust anyone.
Not even me.
He drove off before I could respond, the black SUV Disape ring around the corner. I stood there for a long moment, the cold seeping through my coat, before I finally turned and walked into the hotel. The room was small but clean, a far cry from the opulence of the Turner estate. I sat on the edge of the bed, the manila folder spread out before me, and began reading every document. The details were damning. Mark had been building a secret empire behind my back, using our mariage as a cover. The wedding itself had been part of the plan, a way to secure his image as a devoted husband while he siphoned funds behind the scenes. I thought about all the nights he'd come home late, citing work emergencies. The phone calls he'd taken in another room, his voice lowered. The way he'd brushed off my questions with a kiss and a promise to explain later. It all made sense now. My phone buzzed again. A text from Mark. "Where are you? I'm worried. Please come home." I read at the message, my thumb hovering over the Kiboe road. A part of me wanted to confront him, to scream at him, to demand answers. But Rold's warning echoed in my mind. "Don't trust anyone." I typed out a single word. "Tomorrow." Then I turned off my phone and locked it in the hotel safe. The sheets were crisp and clean, but sleep wouldn't come. I lay in the darkness, SDA ring at the ceiling, the weight of the past 24 hours pressing down on me. $2 million RS. A secret trust. A husband who had been planning my betrayal for over a year. A mother-in-law who would stop at nothing to destroy me. I thought about my own mother, working double shifts at the hospital to put me through college. She had always warned me about the dangers of marrying into money. "They'll eat you alive," she'd said. "They have their own rules, their own games. You'll never be one of them." I should have listened, but at some point, exhaustion finally took over. I drifted into a restless sleep, haunted by dreams of Mark's smirk and Patricia's accusing finger. When I woke, pale morning light was filtering through the curtains, and a new text was waiting on the hotel phone. "Room service is on the way.
Eat.
Then call David Chun.
He's expecting you." Ash.
I ordered coffee and toast, then showered and dressed in the same clothes I'd worn to the dinner. The phone call to David Chun was brief and clinical. He confirmed the trust's existence, walked me through the paperwork, and scheduled a meeting for the following afternoon. "You need to act quickly," he said, his voice professional and detached. "Once Mark and his family discover the trust, they'll file a lawsuit to contest it. We need to have everything in place before that happens." "How much time do we have? A week, maybe 2. The family attorney is competent, but he moves slowly. Richa Road likes to deliberate. Patricia prefers to attack emotionally first before resorting to legal action. Use that to your advantage." I hung up and sat in silence, the coffee growing cold in my hands.
A week. 2 at the most.
The clock was ticking, and I had to decide what kind of fight I was willing to wage. That I picked up my phone and turned it on. A dozen missed calls from Mark, each one more frantic than the last. A string of texts, shifting from concern to anger to pleading. And one from Patricia. "You've made a huge mistake. Mark will never forgive you for walking out. Neither will I." I didn't respond. Instead, I typed out a message to Rold. "I'm in." "What's the first step?" His reply came within seconds. "First step, stop running. Second step, go to the office. Not the family business, the real one. The one Mark has been hiding. I'll send you the address." My heart pounded as the address app read on the screen. It was a building downtown, a nondescript office in a commercial district. Rold's private investigator had done his job well. Now it was my turn, and I grabbed my purse, tucked the manila folder into my coat, and headed for the door. The fight had begun, and there was no turning back. The address Rold sent led me to a crumbling brick building on the edge of the financial district, wedged between a shuttered laundromat and a check-cashing joint that looked like it hadn't seen a customer since the Reagan administration. I stood on the cracked sidewalk, SDA ring at the rusted fire escape and the grime-caked windows, and wondered if I'd been set up again, but the folder in my hands didn't lie. The lease agreement was signed by a shell company registered to Mark's college roommate, a man I'd met twice and never trusted. The rent was paid rudely in cash. No paper trail, no electronic footprint. Just the kind of sloppy, a Rogan operation that rich kids thought made them look like criminal masterminds. I pushed through the heavy glass door and stepped into a narrow hallway that smelled like stale coffee and desperation. The elevator was out of order, so I took the stairs to the fourth floor. My heels echoed off the concrete, each step amplifying the pounding in my chest. I stopped at a door marked Summit Logistics, Suite 4B, and pressed my EAR against the wood. Silence. Did I try the handle? Locked. Did I pulled out my phone and dialed HA rolled? He answered on the first ring. It's locked, I said. Check under the mat. The key's been there since last Tuesday. I bent down and lifted the frayed welcome mat. A brass key glinted in the fluorescent light. I slid it into the lock and turned. The office was small, a la ridger than a walk-in closet. A metal desk sat in the center, cluttered with papers and empty coffee cups. A filing cabinet stood against the FAR wall, its drawers hanging open. The walls were BA-re, except for a white board covered in numbers and names I didn't recognize. MARK's handwriting. I knew it from the grocery lists he left on the kitchen counter, the birthday cards he signed with a flourish. I crossed to the desk and SDA route going through the papers. Bank statements, wire transfer receipts, contracts with vendors I'd never heard of. The picture that emerged was methodical and ruthless. MARK had been building this operation for years, long before we met. The family business was just a front, a way to launder money and maintain appearances. The real wealth was here, in this cramped, miserable office. I found a folder labeled Personal and opened it. Inside were copies of emails between MARK and his brother Jason. They were planning something, discussing timelines and potential obstacles. The obstacles were listed by name. Richa wrote Patricia.
Harold. And me.
I can't believe you married her, Jason had written in one email. She's a liability. You know that, right? Riaj is a liability. MARK had responded. But it's also the perfect cover. Patricia hates her, which means Patricia will never suspect me. The disgruntled son-in-law is a classic misdirection. My hands shook as I read the words. I'd known MARK was calculating, but this was something else. This was a man who saw relationships as transactions, people as pawns. A sound behind me made me freeze. The creak of a floorboy road. I spun around, my heart in my throat. Jason stood in the doorway, his bulk filling the frame. He wore a tailored suit that probably cost more than my mother's car, but his face was flushed and his eyes were wild. Well, he said, his voice dripping with contempt. The little mouse found the cheese. Jason, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. What are you doing here? I could ask you the same question. He stepped into the room, closing the door behind him. The click of the latch was deafening. MARK said you'd be nosy. He said you'd poke around where you didn't belong. I told him to be more careful, but he never listens. Where is MARK? Having dinner with mother and father.
Consoling them.
Playing the dutiful son. Jason laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. They have no idea what he's been doing. None of them do. You're the only one who knows, and you're about to disappear. I took a step back, my hip hitting the desk. You're not going to hurt me. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a knife. A small, utilitarian blade, the kind you'd use to open boxes. But the way he held it told me he knew how to use it for other things. I've been doing this a long time, Sarah. I've cleaned up MARK's messes since we were kids. He breaks things, I fix them. And you're the biggest break yet. I thought about running. The door was behind him, and he was fast. Too fast. But the window was behind me, and we were 4 floors up. Not an option. You're making a mistake, I said, keeping my voice calm. If I disappear, HA Roll will know. He'll come for you. Jason's smile faltered, just a fraction. HA Roll's a bluff. He's been bluffing his whole life. All talk, no action. You sure about that? I pulled my phone from my pocket and held it up. Because I recorded this entire conversation. Every word. It's already backed up to the cloud. If anything happens to me, that file goes to the police, the district attorney, and every media outlet in the city. Jason's face went white. You're lying. I tapped the screen, showing him the recording app. The red light was blinking. I've been recording since I walked in. You think I came here unprepared? You think I'm as stupid as your mother thinks I am? The knife wavered in his hand. I could see the calculation happening behind his eyes, the chores turning as he weighed his options. Put the knife down, I said, and we can talk. You don't want to do this. You're not a killer, Jason. You're just a rich boy trying to protect his inheritance. You don't know anything about me. I know you're SCA red. I know you've been covering for MARK for your RS and you're tired of it. I know you're the one who told Patricia about the wedding debt because you wanted to make me look bad. His expression flickered. How did you? I found the email. The one you sent to Patricia's assistant. You set me up, Jason. You and MARK. But it's over now. The money's gone. The trust is gone. There's nothing left to fight over. The knife lowered just an inch. What trust? The one your grandfather set up. The one he told H.A. rolled about. I was gambling now, throwing out half-truths and hoping they'd land. It's small. BA rely enough to pay off the debts. But it's mine, and I'm not letting you or MARK or anyone else take it from me. Jason STA read at me, his jaw working. Grandfather never trusted us. He never trusted anyone. That's why he gave everything to H.A. rolled. That's the story he wanted you to believe. I took a step forward, closing the distance between us. But I know the truth. You know the truth, too. You just don't want to admit it. The knife clattered to the floor. Jason's shoulders sagged, the fight draining out of him. I didn't want any of this, he said, his voice hoa RSE. MARK kept pushing. He said we had to protect the family. He said we had to do whatever it took. And you believed him. I didn't have a choice. He's my brother. He's a liar. He's been lying to you, to your parents, to everyone. And you let him. I reached down and picked up the knife, slipping it into my pocket. But you have a choice now. You can walk out of this room and pretend I was never here. Or you can help me. Jason's eyes narrowed. Help you do what? Help me prove that MARK is the one who's been stealing from the family. Help me show your parents the truth. They're not going to believe me on my own. But they'll believe you. He laughed again, but this time there was no venom in it. You think I'm going to turn on my own brother. I think you're going to do what's right for once. I pointed to the filing cabinet. There's evidence in there. Emails, wire transfers, contracts. I've already photographed most of them. But there's more, and I need access. Jason looked at the cabinet, then back at me. His face was pale, his hands trembling. If I do this, MARK will never forgive me. MARK doesn't forgive anyone. He uses people until they're useless, then he discards them. You know that better than anyone. The silence stretched between us, thick and heavy. I could hear the faint hum of the old fluorescent lights, the distant wail of a siren from the street below. Fine, Jason said finally, his voice a a whisper. But if this backfires, I'll deny everything.
I'll say you forced me.
I wouldn't expect anything less. He crossed to the filing cabinet and pulled out a thick folder, handing it to me. This is everything. The offshore accounts, the shell companies, the fake contracts. He's been skimming from the family business for 5 years. But there's something else, something you need to see. He pulled a smaller envelope from the back of the cabinet and held it out. MARK's been paying someone off. A lot of money. I don't know who it is, but it's been going on for months. I think it's connected to grandfather's death. I took the envelope, my hand steady despite the chaos inside me. What do you mean connected? I mean, I think MARK accelerated things. Grandfather was sick, yes, but he was getting better. Then suddenly he took a turn. MARK was the one who found him. The doctor said it was a stroke, but I've always wondered. The weight of his words settled over me like a shroud. If MARK had been involved in his grandfather's death, this wasn't just about money anymore. This was something far darker. I need to go, I said, tucking the envelope into my coat. I need to get this to H.A. rolled. Jason nodded, his face grim. You do what you need to do. But S.A. raw, B.C.A. refill. MARK doesn't know I've been holding on to this. If he finds out, he'll come for both of us. He won't find out, I said, heading for the door. Because you and I are going to make sure he doesn't. I left Jason standing in the middle of the office, surrounded by the wreckage of his brother's ambitions. The staircase seemed longer on the way down, my legs unsteady beneath me. When I finally stepped out into the cold afternoon air, I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. I dialed H.A. Rold's number. I have it, I said. Everything. But there's more. I need to meet with you right now. His voice was sharp, alert. Where are you? I told him. Stay there. I'll be there in 10 minutes. And yeah, don't trust anyone. Not even Jason. He's been playing both sides for yours. The line went dead. I stood on the sidewalk, the envelope burning a hole in my pocket, and watched the traffic crawl past. The city felt different now.
Dahir.
More dangerous. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat. Every face seemed to hide a lie. I thought about Mark, the man I'd married, the man I'd loved. Had any of it been real, or was I just another pawn in his game? I pulled out the envelope and opened it, my fingers trembling. Inside was a single photograph. A grainy surveillance shot of Mark meeting a man in a parking garage. The man's face was partly obscured, but I recognized him. It was David Chin, the lawyer H.A. Rold had told me to contact. The man who was supposed to help me secure the trust. That my blood ran cold. I read at the photo, my mind racing. Was H.A. Rold setting me up? 2. Was David Chin working for Mark? The sound of an engine rumbled behind me. I spun around, my heart pounding. A black sedan pulled up to the curb. The window rolled down, and a familiar voice called out, "Get in. We don't have much time." It was H.A. Rold, but there was something different about his face. Something cold and calculating that I hadn't seen before. I hesitated. The envelope in my pocket felt like a bomb. The photograph was still burning in my mind. "Get in, Raw," he said again. "I told you not to trust anyone. That includes me." "I know," I said, my voice steady. "That's why I'm not getting in." H.A. Rold's expression shifted, a flicker of surprise. "What do you mean?" "I mean I'm done being a pawn. I'm done trusting people who have their own agendas." I stepped back, my hand closing around the knife in my pocket. "You and Mark and Jason. You're all the same. You think you can use me, and I'll just go along with it." H.A. Rold's face went harrowed. "You're making a mistake." "Maybe I am, but it's my mistake to make." I turned and walked away, my heart racing, my legs threatening to give out. I didn't look back. I couldn't. If I did, I'd see the truth in his eyes, and I wasn't ready for that. I reached the corner and ducked into a coffee shop, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I collapsed into a booth and read at the envelope on the table in front of me. The photograph was still there. Mark and David Chin. 2 men I'd trusted. 2 men who'd been playing me from the RT. I pulled out my phone and opened the recording app. The file was still there, every word Jason had said. Every confession. Every accusation, but I didn't know who to send it to. Who could I trust? The answer came to me slowly, like a sunrise breaking through storm clouds. My mother. The one person who had never lied to me, never used me, never asked for anything in return. I pressed the call button and waited. "Mom," I said when she answered. "I need your help." My mother's voice crackled through the speaker, thin and reedy from years of 12-hour shifts and too little sleep. "Raw, what's wrong? You sound like you're about to fall apart." I looked around the coffee shop, scanning the faces of the other customers. A man in a business suit rang at his laptop. A couple arguing softly in the corner. A barista wiping down the counter with the mechanical precision of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. No one was watching me. No one read. But I couldn't shake the feeling that H.A. Rold's black sedan was idling somewhere outside, waiting for me to make another mistake. "Mom, I need you to listen to me fully," I said, keeping my voice low. "I'm in trouble, real trouble, and I need you to do exactly what I say." There was a pause on the other end. Then her voice came back, right now, stripped of its EA relier concern. What kind of trouble? The kind that involves Mark and his family. And a lot of money. I took a breath, steadying myself. I'm going to send you a file. A recording. I need you to download it and keep it somewhere safe. Don't tell anyone you have it. Don't even look at it unless I tell you to. But if something happens to me, I need you to take it to the police. The silence stretched out, long and heavy. I could picture her sitting in the kitchen of our small apartment, her hand gripping the phone, her face pale. She'd always known Mark wasn't good for me. She'd told me so, in her quiet, understated way. He's too smooth, raw. Too reeful. A man who never raises his voice has something to hide. Raw, she said finally. You in danger. I don't know. Maybe. I think Mark is involved in something bigger than I realized. Something that might have gotten his grandfather killed. Another pause. Then, send me the file. I'll keep it safe. But you need to come home.
Right now.
Whatever you're doing, whatever you think you're chasing, it can wait. Come home, and we'll figure this out together. The word home hit me like a punch to the chest. I'd been so caught up in the chaos of the past 24 hours that I'd forgotten what safety felt like. What it meant to have someone who read about me, not because of what I could give them, but because of who I was. I can't, I said, my voice cracking. Not yet. There's something I need to do first. Something I need to prove. Prove what? That Mark isn't the man I thought he was. That his family has been covering for him for years. That I'm not the villain Patricia wants everyone to believe I am. My mother sighed, a long, weary sound. You don't have to prove anything to them, raw. They're not worth it. Maybe not. But I have to prove it to myself. I hung up before she could argue further and immediately four-way ride the recording to her email. The file was large, over 100 megabytes, but I watched the progress bar four-way RD with a grim satisfaction. Whatever happened next, at least the truth would exist somewhere outside of me. I pulled out the photograph from the envelope again, staring at the grainy image of Mark and David Chen. The lawyer, who was supposed to be helping me. The lawyer rolled, had sent me to. I'd been so desperate for a lifeline that I'd grabbed the first one offered. Now I was paying the price. A new text message flashed on my screen. Roll's number. Don't do anything stupid. I know you're in the coffee shop. I can see you through the window. I looked up, my heart slamming against my ribs. The street was busy, cars and pedestrians moving in a steady stream, but I couldn't see the black sedan anywhere. Still, I knew he was out there. Watching. Waiting. I typed back. What do you want? A response came almost instantly. I want to help you. But you have to trust me. I laughed out loud, earning a curious look from the barista. Trust him. After everything he'd done, everything he'd said, he still expected me to trust him. I stood up, my legs shaky beneath me. The coffee shop had a back exit, a narrow hallway that led to an alley. I'd spotted it when I first walked in, a habit born of years of navigating unfamiliar spaces. I slid out of the booth and made my way toward the back, keeping my head down, my phone still clutched in my hand. The alley was empty, lined with dumpsters and overflowing trash bags. I walked quickly, my heels clicking on the cracked pavement, and emerged onto a side street. I hailed a cab without looking back and gave the driver an address that was burned into my memory. The building was a modest brownstone in a quiet neighborhood, the kind of place that seemed untouched by the chaos of the city. I paid the driver and stood on the sidewalk. Rang at the front door. My hands were shaking, but my resolve was steel. I knocked, the door opened a few moments later, and a woman stood in the frame. She was in her late 50s, her gray hair pulled back in a neat bun, her face lined with years of quiet service. She was wearing a simple house dress and an apron, and she smelled like lavender and baking bread. Raw, she said, her voice soft and surprised. I wasn't expecting you. I know, I said. I'm sorry to show up unannounced. But I need your help. The woman's name was Margaret, and she was the one person in Mark's family who'd never treated me like an outsider. She was the housekeeper, the one who'd been with the Turners for decades, long before Patricia had swept in with her designer handbags and her social climbing. Marga Red had seen it all. The fights, the betrayals, the quiet moments of kindness that were quickly buried under layers of resentment and greed. She stepped back, holding the door open. "Come in. You look like you haven't slept in days." I followed her into the cozy living room, the familiar arwa rmth of the fireplace washing over me. I'd been here a dozen times before, always at the urging of Mark, who used Marga Rhett's house as a refuge from his family's demands. But I'd never come alone. I'd never come without him. Marga Rhett, I need to ask you something, I said, sitting on the worn sofa. And I need you to be honest with me. She sat across from me, her hands folded in her lap. I always am, Dar. What is it? The night Mark's grandfather died. Did you see anything unusual? Marga Rhett's face went pale. Why were you asking about that? Because I think Mark might have been involved. I think he might have done something to accelerate his grandfather's death. The silence was deafening. Marga Rhett stared at me, her eyes wide, her lips pressed into a thin line. Then she nodded slowly. I knew, she said, her voice a relia whisper. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't have proof. I didn't want to believe it. What did you see? She took a breath, steadying herself. The night he died, I was cleaning up after dinner. Mark was supposed to be downstairs with everyone else, but I saw him go up to his grandfather's room. I didn't think much of it at first. They were close, Mark and his grandfather. But then I heard raised voices. Arguing about what? I couldn't hear everything. But I heard Mark say something about the will, about how his grandfather couldn't keep changing it, couldn't keep playing favorites. And then I heard a crash, and Mark came running down the stairs. His grandfather was dead the next morning. I felt the blood drain from my face. Did you tell anyone? I told Richa Road. He said I was mistaken. He said I'd heard things that weren't there. Marga Rhett's voice cracked. He told me to keep quiet, that it was a family matter, and if I valued my job, I'd forget what I'd seen. Patricia knew, too, I said, the pieces falling into place. She knew the whole time. That's why she's been so desperate to control everything. She's been covering for Mark. Marga Rhett nodded, tears streaming down her face.
I am sorry, Sarah.
I should have said something. I should have gone to the police. But I was SCA Red. I'm still SCA Red. I reached over and took her hand. You're not SCA Red anymore. I'm here now. And I'm not going to let them get away with this. We sat in silence for a long moment, the weight of everything pressing down on us. Then Marga Rhett squeezed my hand and looked up, her eyes fierce. There's something else, she said. Something I've never told anyone. But I think you need to know. What is it? Before he died, Mark's grandfather gave me a letter. He told me to keep it safe, and to give it to you if anything ever happened to him. She stood up and walked to a bookshelf in the corner, pulling out a worn copy of a Jane Austen novel. Inside, tucked between the pages, was a sealed envelope that I took it, my fingers trembling. Why me? Because he trusted you, Marga Rhett said. He said you were the only one in the family who didn't want anything from him. He said you were the one who would see things clear RLY, even when everyone else was blinded by greed. I opened the envelope, my hands shaking. Inside was a letter, written in a shaky hand. My day resta se ra. If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and the truth is finally yours to know. For yours, I've watched my family TR itself APA RT over money. I've seen the lies, the betrayals, the lengths they'll go to for a piece of the fortune I built. And I've seen how they've treated you, my dear girl, as if you were the enemy. But you're not the enemy. You're the only one who's ever been honest with me. The only one who ever treated me like a person, not a bank account. That's why I'm writing this. The trust H.A. Rold mentioned is real. But it's not the only thing I left you. There's a safety deposit box at the First National Bank. The key is taped to the back of this letter. Inside, you'll find documents that prove everything: the embezzlement, the fraud, the cover-up. I was too weak to confront my sons myself. But I'm not too weak to make sure the truth survives. Use it wisely. And remember, the greatest inheritance you can ever receive is not money, but the freedom to live your own life. With all my love. A third Turner. I read the letter twice, then a third time, the words blurring as TRS filled my eyes. When I looked up, Margaret was watching me, her face wet with TRS of her own. He was a good man, she said. He just didn't know how to save his own family from themselves. I turned the letter over. Taped to the back was a small brass key. I slid it into my pocket, alongside the photograph and the knife. Thank you, Margaret, I said, my voice steady. I won't forget this. I stood up and walked to the door, but Margaret's voice stopped me. Ra, she said, BCA refill. Mark isn't the only one you have to worry about. Rold has his own agenda. He always has. I know, I said, but I'm done being afraid. I stepped out into the cold evening air and pulled out my phone. David Chen's number was still in my contacts, a contact I'd saved with Rold's encouragement. I read at it for a long moment, then dialed. He answered on the second ring. Ra. I wasn't expecting to hear from you until tomorrow. Change of plans, I said. I need to see you tonight. There's something I need to show you. There was a pause. Then, of course, my office. Come as soon as you can. I'll be there in an hour. I hung up and hailed another cab. The safety deposit key burned a hole in my pocket, the letter heavy in my chest. I was walking into a trap. I knew that. David Chen was working for Mark, or at least for someone who wanted me to fail. But I was done running. I was done hiding. If the truth was going to come out, I was going to be the one who brought it. The cab dropped me off 3 blocks from David Chen's office. I paid the driver in cash, a habit I developed over the past 24 hours, and walked the rest of the way. The street was quiet, the office buildings dark and empty at this hour. A single light burned on the 5th floor, a beacon in the sea of glass and steel. I stood across the street, SDA ring at that light, and felt the weight of the safety deposit key pressing against my thigh. Arthur Turner's letter was tucked inside my coat, next to the photograph of Mark and David Chen. 2 pieces of evidence that didn't fit together, a puzzle I was still trying to solve. My phone buzzed. A text from Margaret. BCA refill. He's not who you think he is. I typed back, who I assent, but she didn't respond. I waited a full minute, watching the screen, but nothing came through. A cold knot tightened in my stomach. Margaret knew something. Something she hadn't told me. I crossed the street and entered the building. The lobby was empty, the security desk abandoned. A single elevator hummed in the corner, its doors standing open as if waiting for me. I stepped inside and pressed the button for the 5th floor. The ride was short, but it felt like an eternity. My reflection read back at me from the polished metal walls, pale and hollow-eyed. I recognized myself. The woman who'd walked into that New Year's dinner, hopeful and naive, was gone. In her place was someone harder, someone willing to walk into the lion's den. The doors opened onto a narrow hallway, lined with doors ring the names of law firms and accounting practices. David Chen's office was at the end, a modest suite with a frosted glass door. The name Chen and Associates was etched in gold lettering. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. The reception area was small and unremarkable, with a few chairs and a coffee table covered in outdated magazines. David Chen stood by the window, his back to me. Ring out at the city lights. He was a tall man, in his late 40s, with graying temples and the kind of face that was easy to forget. Ra, he said without turning around. You came. Did you think I wouldn't? He turned, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. I thought he might have second thoughts. Most people do, when they're about to do something reckless. I'm not most people.
No.
No, you're not. He gestured to a chair in front of his desk.
Seat.
We have a lot to discuss.
I didn't sit.
I stood in the middle of the room, my hands at my sides, the key and the letter and the photograph all burning a hole through my coat. I know you're working with Mark, I said. I know you've been helping him hide money, set up shell companies, cover his tracks. The question is, why? David's smile faded. He walked around his desk and sat down, folding his hands in front of him. I'm not working with Mark, he said. I'm working with someone else. Someone who has a much bigger stake in this than you realize. Who? Patricia. The name hit me like a slap. I'd suspected Richa Road, Jason, even H.A. rolled. But Patricia, the woman who'd blamed me for everything, who'd treated me like an intruder from the moment I'd walked into her home, it didn't make sense. She's been paying me for chores, David continued. Not to help Mark, but to track him. She's known about his schemes for a long time, longer than you'd think. But she couldn't act on it without proof. She needed someone inside his operation, someone who could gather evidence without raising suspicion. And that someone was you. I was the ideal candidate. I'd worked with the family before, on smaller matters. I had access to Mark's finances, his communications. And Patricia was willing to pay me a very generous retainer. I shook my head, trying to process the information. If Patricia knew about Mark's schemes, why didn't she stop him? Why didn't she go to the police? Because she's playing a longer game. David leaned four-way RD, his voice dropping. Patricia doesn't see a about justice. She see a residential about control. She's been orchestrating this for chores, positioning herself to take over the family business once Richa Road is out of the picture. Mark's schemes were just a way to weaken Richa RD's position, to make him look like a failure. So Patricia is using me. Everyone's using you, S.A. Raw. The only question is who you're going to align yourself with. I sat down then, the weight of everything finally pressing me into the chair. What about H.A. rolled? He's a wild CA Road. He's been playing both sides, feeding information to Patricia and Richa Road, and whoever else will pay him. The trust he told you about is real, but it's not as straightforward RD as he made it seem. There are reconditions, legal restrictions, and the only person who knows the full details is the one who set it up. Arthur Turner. David nodded. Your grandfather-in-law was no fool. He knew his family was T-ring itself APART, and he knew he couldn't stop it. So he built a fail-safe. A way to ensure that at least one person in the family would survive the wreckage with something intact. The trust.
Yes.
But there's a catch. To access it, you need to provide proof that you've been the victim of fraud or coercion. You need to show that Mark, Patricia, Richa Road, or anyone else in the family has acted in bad faith to prevent you from receiving what you're owed. I thought about the letter in my pocket, the safety deposit key, the photograph of Mark and David meeting in the parking garage. I have proof. I have a lot of proof. David raised an eyebrow. Do you? Because I've been gathering evidence for Patricia for 3 years, and I still haven't found enough to bring the family down. What makes you think you have something different? I pulled out the photograph and slid it across the desk. This, I said. The night you met with Mark in the parking garage. What was that about? David's face went pale. He read at the photograph, his jaw tightening. Where did you get this? Does it matter you were meeting with Mark behind Patricia's back? You were playing both sides, too. I was meeting with Mark because he threatened to expose my involvement with Patricia if I didn't see you operate. He's been blackmailing me for over a year. You expect me to believe that. I expect you to believe the truth, whether you like it or not. David's voice was sharp, defensive. Mark found out about the arrangement I had with Patricia. He used that information to force me into helping him. I didn't have a choice. Everyone has a choice. Not when you're in as deep as I am. I've got a daughter in college, a mortgage, a reputation to protect. If any of this comes out, I lose everything. I read at him, the pieces of the puzzle shifting and arranging in my mind. Patricia.
Ma RK, Harold.
David. For players, each with their own agenda, each willing to sacrifice anyone to get what they wanted. What about Arthur? I asked. Did you know about the letter, the safety deposit box? David's eyes narrowed. What letter? The one he gave to Margaret. The one that names you as the executor of his estate. I was bluffing, but I didn't have a choice. I needed to see his reaction, to understand where his loyalties really lay. David's face went white. He named me sure, positive. I didn't know. David's voice was a whisper. He never told me. None of them told me. Why would he name you? You were working for Patricia, and she was working against the family. I don't know. Maybe he knew something I didn't. Maybe he was trying to protect me. The room fell silent. I could hear the faint hum of the fluorescent lights, the distant sound of traffic from the street below. I was exhausted, running on adrenaline and coffee and sheer determination. But I couldn't stop now. Not when I was this close to— Where's the safety deposit box? David asked. I don't know. The key is the only clue I have. Then we need to find it. Tonight. I shook my head. I'm not going anywhere with you. None till I know whose side you're really on. Your side, David said, his voice earnest. I'm on your side. I've been on your side from the beginning. I just couldn't tell you. Prove it. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a thumb drive, sliding it across the desk. Everything I have. Every email, every document, every recording. The full truth about what Mark and Patricia and Richa Road have been doing.
Take it.
Use it. I don't see what happens to me anymore. I just want this to be over. I read at the thumb drive, my hand hovering over it. It could be a trap. Another way to manipulate me. But it could also be the key to everything. I picked it up and slipped it into my pocket, next to the safety deposit key and the photograph. If this is a setup, I'll find out. And I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. I wouldn't expect anything less. I stood up, ready to leave, but David's voice stopped me. Raw, he said, BCA refill with HA rolled. He's not just playing both sides. He's playing all sides. And he's been doing it longer than any of us. What do you mean? I mean he's the one who's been selling information to the rival companies. He's the one who's been undermining the family business for yours, setting up his own network of contacts and assets. Arthur may have written the will, but H.A. Rold wrote the script. I felt a chill run down my spine. Why would he do that? Because he wants to watch his brother fall. He wants to see the family destroyed from the inside. It's been his obsession since Richa Road took over. I walked out of the office, the thumb drive burning a hole in my pocket. The lobby was still empty, the security desk still abandoned. I stepped out into the cold night air and pulled out my phone. I had 3 evidence files now. The recording of Jason, the thumb drive from David, and the safety deposit key. But I still didn't have the full picture. I still didn't know who to trust. I dialed Margaret's number. She answered on the first ring. Raw. Thank God. I've been trying to reach you. What happened? Why did you say he's not who you think he is? Because H.A. Rold was here. He came to my house looking for you. He said you were in danger, that he needed to protect you. But I could see it in his eyes, Raw. The same look Mark had when he was lying to me. Where is he now? I don't know. He left about 10 minutes ago. He said he was going to the bank. The First National Bank. My heart stopped. The safety deposit box. I have to go, I said. I'll call you later. I hung up and hailed another cab, my hands shaking as I gave the driver the address. The First National Bank was a 30-minute drive from here. 30 minutes that would feel like an eternity. I thought about Arthur Turner's letter, about the safety deposit key in my pocket, about H.A. Rold's obsession with destroying his brother's family. If H.A. Rold got to the box first, everything was lost. The cab screeched to a halt in front of the bank. I threw cash at the driver and ran for the entrance. The doors were locked, but a security guard was inside, his face visible through the glass. Please, I shouted, pounding on the door. I need to get in. It's an emergency. The guard shook his head, pointing at his watch.
Closed.
Come back tomorrow. You don't understand. Someone's in there. Someone who's about to steal something that doesn't belong to them. The guard hesitated, his hand hovering over the door handle. Then he pulled it open just a crack. Who are you? Raw Turner. I'm Arthur Turner's granddaughter-in-law. He left me something in a safety deposit box, and I think someone's trying to take it. The Gwa RD's eyes widened. Arthur Turner, the old man who died last month. Yes. Please. I don't have much time. He opened the door and let me in. The vault is in the back. But I can't let you go down there without a supervisor. It's policy. I don't see a about policy. I need to get down there right now. Before he could respond, I heard a sound from the back of the bank. A door slamming. Footsteps echoing off the marbly floor. I ran toward the sound, my heels clicking against the polished stone. The Gwa RD called after me, but I didn't stop. I reached the vault just as a figure emerged from the shadows. H.A. rolled. His face was flushed, his hands empty. S.A. raw, he said, his voice smooth and calm. I was wondering when you'd show up. Where is it? I demanded. Where's the box? You're too late. I already have it. My blood ran cold. What? The safety deposit box. I found it, and I took everything inside. I read at him, the world spinning around me. He'd won. He'd beaten me, but then I remembered the letter. Arthur's words. The key is taped to the back of this letter. I had the key. I'd had it all along. H.A. rolled. Couldn't have opened the box without it. You're bluffing, I said. You don't have the key.
Arroz mila faltarat.
What did you say? I said you're bluffing. You don't have the key. Arthur gave it to me. The smile red, replaced by something cold and calculating. Give me the key, S.A. raw. It's the only way to protect yourself. Protect myself from what? From me. His voice was flat, emotionless. I've been playing this game for a long time, and I don't lose. I reached into my pocket, my hand closing around the knife. Neither do I. The vault's fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a sterile glow on the polished marbly floor. H.A. rolled stood 10 feet away, his hands raised in a gesture of mock surrender, but his eyes told a different story. Cold. Calculating. The eyes of a man who'd been playing chess while everyone else played checkers. Put the knife down, S.A. raw, he said, his voice dripping with condescension. You're not going to use it. You've never hurt anyone in your life. You don't know what I'm capable of. I know exactly what you're capable of. I've been watching you for months. You're a good person, S.A. raw. That's your weakness. You see the best in people, even when they don't deserve it. You trusted Mark. You trusted me. You even trusted Jason, for God's sake. I tightened my grip on the knife, the blade glinting under the RSH lights. You're right about one thing. I trusted you.
And you used me.
Just like everyone else. I didn't use you. I gave you a chance to escape. I gave you the truth, the evidence, the key to everything. But you couldn't see it. You were too busy looking for enemies to realize I was trying to help you. Help me. You tried to steal from me. You came here to take the box before I could get to it. H.A. rolled laughed, a dry, humorless sound. I came here to protect it. Do you have any idea what's in that box? Do you have any idea what Patricia and Richard Road will do to get their hands on it? I know exactly what's in it. Arthur's will. The real one. The one that names me as the beneficiary. H.A. Rold's smile faltered. Just for a moment. Arthur told you. He told Margaret. And Margaret told me. Margaret. H.A. Rold's voice was bitter. Of course. She was always his favorite. The only one who never wanted anything from him. I took a step forward, the knife still raised. You don't get to judge her. You don't get to judge any of them. You've been lying and scheming and manipulating your way through this family for decades. You're no better than Mark. No better than Patricia. I never said I was better. I said I was honest. I told you from the beginning not to trust me. That was the truth. And what about the rest of it? The trust, the evidence, the photograph, were any of those true? H.A. Rold's eyes flicked to the side, just for a fraction of a second. It was enough. I followed his gaze to a small door at the back of the vault, half hidden behind a row of safety deposit boxes. What's in there? I asked, my voice sharp. Nothing you need to worry about. I'll be the judge of that. I moved toward the door, my heart pounding. H.A. Rold stepped forward, blocking my path. You don't want to go in there, S.A. Raw. Trust me. Trust you, you just told me not to trust you. I'm telling you now. For your own good. Don't go in there. I pushed past him, shoving him against the wall. He was stronger than me, but he wasn't expecting the sudden burst of adrenaline-fueled strength. He stumbled, and I reached the door before he could recover. I pulled it open. The room was small, the law ridger than a closet. A single light bulb hung from the ceiling, casting a dim yellow glow on the contents.
A desk, a chair,
And a wall covered in photographs. I stepped inside, my breath catching in my throat. The photographs were of me.
dozens of them.
Me walking down the street. Me at the grocery store. Me at the coffee shop. Me with Mark. With my mother. With Margaret. There were dates scrawled on the back of each one, spanning months. I turned to H.A. rolled, my voice shaking. What is this? Insurance, he said flatly. I've been documenting your movements since the engagement. Every step you took, every person you talked to. I needed to know everything about you. Why? Because you were the variable. The one piece of the puzzle I couldn't control. I knew Mark would try to use you, and I knew Patricia would try to destroy you. I needed to be ready for whatever happened. And the photographs, evidence of your relationship with Mark, with his family, with everyone. If things went wrong, I needed to have leverage. Something to protect myself. You've been stalking me for months. I've been protecting myself. There's a difference. I felt the knife shake in my hand. The urge to use it was overwhelming, a primal impulse that screamed for release. But I held back. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of seeing me lose control. You're sick, I said. You're just as twisted as the rest of them. Maybe. But I'm also the only one who's ever been honest with you. He stepped into the room, his voice soft. I could have killed you a dozen times. I could have let Mark destroy you. I could have walked away and let the family TR itself apart. But I didn't. I stayed. I watched. I protected you the only way I knew how. Protecting me, you've been manipulating me since the moment we met. Manipulation is a form of protection. You have no idea how dangerous this family is. How they'll go to get what they want. Mark and Patricia killed Arthur. They orchestrated his death and made it look like a stroke. And they would have done the same to you if I hadn't intervened. I read at him, the words hitting me like a physical blow. You're lying. I wish I was. But I have proof. It's in the box. The one you're so desperate to open. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small brass key, identical to the one Arthur had given Margaret. I found it. A copy. Arthur gave it to me hours ago, as a backup in case something happened to him. Give it to me. Not until you listen to what I have to say. I looked at him, really looked, and for the first time I saw the exhaustion in his eyes. The years of scheming, the weight of secrets, the loneliness of a life spent in the shadows. I'm listening, I said. Arthur knew his sons were incapable of running the business. He knew Richa Road was weak, and he knew Patricia was ruthless. That's why he set up the trust. That's why he made you the beneficiary. He wanted to protect you from them. Protect me from what? The fallout. When the truth comes out, when the embezzlement and the fraud and the murder are re-exposed, the family is going to implode. Everyone is going to be looking for someone to blame. And you're the perfect target. The outsider. The one whom I'll ride into the family for money. But I didn't RRY for money. I know, but no one else does. Patricia has been feeding them that story for years. And when everything falls apart, she's going to make sure you're the one who takes the fall. I felt the weight of his words settle over me. He was right. Of course he was right. Patricia had been building a narrative for years, painting me as the gold-digging outsider who'd wormed her way into the family. When the truth came out, she would use that narrative to destroy me. What do you want me to do? I asked, my voice hollow. I want you to take the box. Open it. Read the documents inside. And then disappear. Disappear, take the money. START a new life. Forget this family ever existed. It's the only way to survive. I shook my head. I can't do that. There are people who depend on me. My mother.
My regiaret.
They'll be caught in the crossfire. They'll be caught in the crossfire regardless. The only question is whether you'll be there to help them or to add to the CA renage. I thought about it. The trust. The safety deposit box. The months of manipulation and lies. It was all too much. But somehow, in the midst of the chaos, I found a small spa arcade of CLA righty. I'm not going to disappear, I said. I'm not going to run away. I'm going to fight. Not for the money. Not for revenge. But for the truth. For Arthur.
For retorisk.
For everyone who's been caught in this family's web of lies. H.A. Rold's expression changed, a flicker of something that might have been respect. You're braver than I gave you credit for. But bravery won't save you. The truth won't save you. The only thing that will save you is getting out now. I'm not asking for your permission. I'm telling you what I'm going to do. He stood there for a long moment, his eyes locked on mine. Then he sighed a long, weary sound and handed me the key. Take it, he said. Do what you need to do. But don't come crying to me when it all goes wrong. I took the key, my fingers brushing against his. I won't. I walked to the safety deposit box, my hands trembling as I slid both keys into the locks. The mechanisms clicked, and the door swung open. Inside was a thick folder, stuffed with documents. I pulled it out, an STA route flipping through the pages. Financial records, legal contracts, medical reports, and at the bottom, a letter addressed to me. I opened it, my heart pounding. Da, RSA raw. If you're reading this, then I'm gone, and the truth is finally yours to know. The documents in this folder are the keys to my family's destruction. They contain evidence of fraud, embezzlement, and murder. Use them wisely, but I want you to know something else. Something I never had the courage to say in person. You are the light in my final EORS. The only person in the family who treated me like a human being. I am sorry for the pain I've caused you, for the chaos I've left behind. But I am grateful for the time we had together. Take the money. Take the truth. Take whatever you need to build a new life. And remember, you are not responsible for the sins of this family. You are only responsible for your own. With all my love. Arthur. I read the letter 3 times, TRS streaming down my face. Then I looked up at H.A. Rold, still standing in the doorway. Thank you, I said. For everything. He nodded, his face unreadable. Don't thank me yet. The hardest part is still ahead of you. I tucked the folder under my ARM and walked out of the vault, H.A. Rold following close behind. The security guard was waiting by the entrance, his face pale. Is everything okay? He asked. Fine, I said. Just a family disagreement. I walked out into the cold night air, the folder clutched to my chest. H.A. Rold had given me the key. Arthur had given me the truth. Now it was up to me to decide what to do with it. I pulled out my phone and dialed my mother's number. Mom, I said when she answered. I need you to come pick me up. I have something to show you. The line was silent for a moment. Then, I'll be there in 20 minutes. My mother arrived in 23 minutes, which was exactly the amount of time it took for me to pace the sidewalk in front of the bank, the folder pressed so tightly against my chest that my ARMs were rooting to ache. Her old Honda Civic pulled up to the curb, the engine sputtering like it always did, and I climbed into the passenger seat without a word. She looked at me, really looked, and I saw her eyes widen. S.A. Raw. You look like you've been through a war. I have been, I said.
Just drive.
I'll explain everything.
She didn't argue.
That was the thing about my mother. She never pushed, never pried. She just waited, patient and steady, until I was ready to talk. We drove in silence for 10 minutes, the city lights blurring past the window, before I finally spoke. Mark's grandfather left me something, I said. A trust. A safety deposit box full of evidence. He knew his family was destroying itself, and he wanted me to have the truth. My mother's hands tightened on the steering wheel. What kind of truth? The kind that could destroy them. Fraud, embezzlement, and maybe even murder. Arthur didn't die of a stroke. He was killed. M-A-R-K, and Patricia did it. The C-A-R swerved slightly as my mother processed the words. S-A-Ra, that's a very serious accusation. Do you have proof? I opened the folder and pulled out the medical reports, the financial records, the letter Arthur had written. It's all here. The money M-A-R-K stole, the shell companies he set up, the payments he made to Patricia's personal accounts, and the autopsy report that shows Arthur had been given a lethal dose of medication that was prescribed to Patricia. My mother pulled over to the side of the road, her face pale. You're going to the police, I have to. But I can't do it alone. They'll bury me in legal battles, drag it out for chores. I need someone who knows how to play their game. And who's that? I thought about David Chen, the lawyer, who'd been playing both sides. I thought about H.A. Rold, the uncle who'd been stalking me for months. I thought about M.A.R.G.A. Rhett, the housekeeper who'd been C.A.ring Arthur's secrets for chores. I don't know yet, I admitted. I have people I can call, but I don't know if I can trust any of them. My mother reached over and took my hand, her grip firm and wa'arim. You can trust me. I don't know anything about lawyers or evidence or murder, but I know you, and I know you'll do the right thing. I felt TRS prick at my eyes. What if the right thing is the wrong thing? What if I bring all this to light and it destroys me instead of them? Then you rebuild. You've done it before. You'll do it again. She squeezed my hand. Now, where to? I gave her M.A.R.G.A. Rhett's address. The housekeeper was the only person I knew whose loyalty wasn't for sale. If I was going to figure out my next move, I needed her perspective. M.A.R.G.A. Rhett opened the door before I could knock, her face etched with worry. S.A.Ra. Thank God. I've been pacing for hours. H.A. Rold called me. He said you had the box. Come inside, I said, leading her to the living room. My mother followed, her eyes scanning the modest space with quiet curiosity. I laid the folder on the coffee table and opened it. I have everything. The proof. The truth. M.A.R.G.A. Rhett sat down heavily, her hands clasped in her lap. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to take it to the police. But I need to be SMART about it. If I just walk into a precinct with this, they'll bury me in bureaucracy. I need a lawyer. A real one. Not someone who's tied to the family.
Rhett nodded slowly.
I know someone. A woman. Name is Eleanor Vance. She's a prosecutor, but she's on leave right now. She handled a case against another wealthy family a few years ago. She's tough and she's honest. Can you get me a meeting? I can try. But S.A.Ra, once you go down this path, there's no turning back. Patricia will come after you, with everything she has. Richa Road will disown M.A.R.K., and M.A.R.K. will turn on you to save himself. Are you ready for that? I thought about M.A.R.K.'s smirk at the New Year's dinner, the way he'd watched me walk into his family's ambush without a word of warning. I thought about Arthur's letter, the kindness he'd shown me when no one else would. I thought about my mother, sitting in a stranger's living room, ready to support me no matter what. I'm ready, I said. M.A.R.G.A. Rhett stood up and walked to the phone in the corner of the room. She dialed a number and spoke in low, urgent tones for a few minutes. When she hung up, her face was grim. Eleanor will see you tomorrow morning. But she warned me that Patricia has already sta route making calls. She's telling everyone that you're unstable, that you've been threatening the family, that you're trying to extort them for money. I felt a cold fury settle in my chest. Of course she is. She's also hired a private investigator to follow you. There's a man in a gray sedan outside my house right now, watching the front door. I looked at my mother, then at M.A.R.G.A. Rhett. Then we give him something to watch. I walked to the front window and pulled back the curtain. Sure enough, a gray sedan was parked across the street, its engine idling. The driver was a heavy-set man with a crew cut, his face half hidden behind a pair of sunglasses. I turned to M.A.R.G.A. Rhett. Is there a back way out? Through the kitchen. It leads to the alley behind the house. Good. Mom, you stay here with M.A.R.G.A. Rhett. I'll draw him away. S.A.Ra, no, my mother said, her voice sharp. I'm not letting you go out there alone. I won't be alone. H.A. Rold is waiting for me. H.A. rolled. M.A.R.G.A. Rhett's voice was incredulous. You can't trust him. I know. But he's the only one who knows how to move through the shadows. If I'm going to survive this, I need to Leah RN how to be invisible. I pulled out my phone and sent a text to H.A. rolled. I'm coming out the back. Need a distraction. His response was immediate. Already on it. I slipped through the kitchen and out the back door, the cold air hitting my face like a slap. The alley was dark and narrow, lined with trash cans and crumbling brick walls. I walked quickly, my footsteps echoing off the pavement. A black SUV pulled up at the end of the alley, its headlights cutting through the darkness. The passenger door swung open and H.A. Rolled's voice called out, "Get in." I climbed into the back seat, and the SUV peeled away, tires screeching against the pavement. H.A. Rolled was in the front, his face illuminated by the glow of the dashboard road. You took your time, he said. I needed to make sure I was ready. And I thought about the folder in my hands, the evidence of murder and fraud and betrayal. I thought about Patricia's lies, Mark's betrayal, Richa RD's weakness. I thought about Arthur's faith in me, the trust he'd placed in the one person who'd never asked him for anything. I'm ready. H.A. Rolled nodded, a hint of approval in his eyes. Good. Because this is where the real fight begins. He drove through the city streets, weaving through traffic with practiced ease. I watched the buildings flash past, each one a blur of lights and shadows. I didn't recognize the neighborhood, but I didn't ask. Trusting H.A. Rolled was still a risk, but it was one I had to take. He pulled up to a nondescript building on a quiet street. We're here. Where's here a safe house? I've been using it for years. No one knows about it, not even Patricia's private investigators. I climbed out of the SUV and followed him inside. The building was a converted Wari house, its interior stripped and repurposed into a minimalist living space. A desk, a bed, a small kitchen, and a wall covered in screens, each one displaying a different security feed. I've been watching your family for months, H.A. Rolled said, gesturing to the screens. Every move, every call, every transaction. I know more about them than they know about themselves. Why? Because I've been waiting for the right moment. The moment when the House of CARDS finally collapses. NU, S.A. Raw, the hand that's about to bring it all down. I set the folder on the desk and opened it, spreading the documents across the surface. Then let's bring it down together. H.A. Rolled walked over to the screens and pulled up a series of photographs. Patricia at a lunch meeting with a man I didn't recognize. Richa Road signing documents in a lawyer's office. Mark meeting with a woman in a hotel lobby. Your husband has been having an affair, H.A. Rolled said, his voice flat. With Patricia's personal assistant. She's been feeding him information for years, helping him cover his tracks. I read at the photograph, my heart sinking. Does Patricia know? I'm sure she suspects. She may even be using it as leverage. That's the way she works. Everyone has a weakness, and she exploits them all. I looked at Mark's face in the photograph, the familiar smile he'd worn when he'd promised to love me for better or for worse. Was any of it real? Our marriage, our life together, does it matter? Yes. It matters to me. H.A. Rolled turned to face me, his expression softening. I think Mark loved you in his own way. But he loved power more. He loved the money, the status, the control. You were a part of that, but you were never the main event. I nodded slowly, absorbing the words. It hurt, but it was the truth. And the truth was what I needed. We need to move fast, H.A. Rolled said. Patricia knows you have the evidence. She's going to try to destroy it before you can use it. We need to get it to Eleanor Vance before Patricia can stop us. Then let's go. We gathered the documents and left the safe house, the black SUV waiting at the curb. The streets were quiet, the city asleep. But I knew the silence wouldn't last. Patricia was out there, her network of lawyers and private investigators closing in. We arrived at Eleanor Vance's office, just as the first rays of dawn were breaking over the skyline. The building was a modest brownstone, its windows dark except for a single light on the third floor. H.A. Rolled parked the SUV and looked at me. This is it. Once you walk through that door, there's no going back. I know. Ready? I looked at the folder in my hands, the weight of everything pressing down on me. I thought about Arthur, about his kindness, his hope for a better future. I thought about my mother, waiting for me to come home. I thought about myself, the woman I was becoming, stronger and braver than I'd ever imagined. I'm ready. I opened the door and stepped out into the cold morning air. The sun was rising over the city, casting long shadows across the street. I walked Tawa RD the brownstone, my footsteps steady and sure. Behind me, H.A. Rold's voice called out, "Good luck, S.A. Raw." I didn't turn back. I just kept walking, the folder clutched to my chest, the truth burning in my hands. The door to Eleanor Vance's office swung open before I could knock. A woman stood in the frame, tall and sharp-eyed, her hand extended in greeting. "S.A. Raw Turner," she said. "I've been expecting you." I shook her hand, feeling the strength in her grip. "Thank you for seeing me. I wouldn't have missed it for the world." She stepped aside, gesturing for me to enter.
Come in.
"We have a lot to discuss." I walked into the office, the door closing behind me. The truth was finally in motion, and there was no stopping it now. Eleanor Vance's office was nothing like the corporate law firms I'd seen in the city. It was cluttered, and smelled of old paper and freshly brewed coffee. She gestured for me to sit at a worn leather chair across from her desk, and I settled into it, the folder still clutched in my hands. "Let me see what you have," she said, her voice calm and steadied. I opened the folder and spread the documents across her desk. The medical reports, the financial records, the photographs, Arthur's letter. She read each one in silence, her eyes moving methodically across the pages. When she finished, she leaned back in her chair and let out a long breath. "This is extraordinary," she said. "And extraordinarily dangerous. Do you understand what you're holding? Evidence of murder, fraud, and embezzlement," I said. "I know what it is. I just don't know what to do with it." Eleanor nodded slowly. "The first thing you need to understand is that Patricia Turner is not just a wealthy socialite. She has connections in the district attorney's office, in the media, in the police department. She's been cultivating these connections for decades. If we move too quickly, she'll bury us in counteraccusations and procedural delays. So what do? We move strategically. We go to the police, but we go to the right people. People who have no ties to the Turner family. People who can't be bought or threatened." She pulled out a notepad and wrote down a name.
Detective Maher Webb.
He's been with the department for 30 years. He's honest, thorough, and he's been looking for a way to take down a high-profile criminal for years. He'll jump at this case. What about Mark? He's still my husband. Legally, he has access to everything I own. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "Your husband is a co-conspirator. The moment we file charges, he'll be arrested along with the rest of them. You need to be prepared for that. He'll say anything to save himself. He might even try to frame you." I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. "I know. I've been thinking about that." "Good. Because the next few weeks are going to be brutal. There will be media scrutiny, public shaming, legal battles. Patricia will do everything in her power to destroy your credibility. You need to be ready to fight back." "I'm ready." She studied me for a long moment, her gaze sharp and assessing. "I believe you, but there's something else you need to know. Arthur Turner wasn't just a victim. He was a participant in his own way. He knew what his family was doing, and he enabled it for yours. The trust he set up for you wasn't just a gift. It was an apology, a way to make amends for the sins of his bloodline." I thought about Arthur's letter, the words he'd written about light and darkness, and the weight of family secrets. "I know," I said quietly, "and I forgive him, but I can't forgive the rest of them. Not for what they did to him, not for what they tried to do to me." Eleanor nodded, a flicker of approval in her eyes. "Then let's get to work." The next few weeks were a blur of meetings and phone calls and legal documents. Eleanor worked tirelessly, filing motions, gathering witnesses, coordinating with Detective Webb. The evidence I'd brought was more than enough to build a case, But Patricia's lawyers fought every step of the way, dragging out the proceedings with endless motions and delays. The media coverage was relentless. I was painted as a gold digger, a traitor, a woman who'd turned on her own family for money. Patricia gave interviews, her voice dripping with sympathy and sorrow. "I only ever wanted what was best for my son," she said, her eyes glistening on camera. But S.A. Ra was never satisfied. She wanted everything, and now she's trying to destroy us. I watched the interviews from Eleanor's office, my hands clenched into fists. "She's lying." "I know," Eleanor said. "But the truth will come out. We just have to be patient." The day of the preliminary hearing arrived faster than I expected. I sat in the courthouse, flanked by Eleanor and Detective Webb, my heart pounding as I watched M.A.R.K. and Patricia walk in. M.A.R.K.'s face was pale, his eyes hollow. Patricia's face was a mask of practiced composure, but I could see the fury simmering beneath the surface. The hearing was a formality, a chance for the judge to determine if there was enough evidence to proceed to trial. Eleanor presented the documents, the photographs, the medical reports. She called M.A.R.G.A. Rhett to the stand, and the housekeeper spoke with quiet dignity, recounting the night of Arthur's death, the sound of raised voices, the sight of M.A.R.K. fleeing the room. When it was Patricia's turn to speak, she took the stand with practiced grace, her voice steady and controlled. "I loved my father-in-law," she said. "I would never have met him. This woman, S.A. Ra, has been manipulating my family for years. She wants to destroy us. This is all a fabrication." I watched her performance, my stomach churning. She was good. She was very good. But then Detective Webb took the stand, and everything changed. "During our investigation," he said, his voice calm and methodical, "we discovered a series of encrypted communications between Patricia Turner and her personal assistant, Linda Hart. In these communications, they discussed the administration of Arthur Turner's medication and the timing of his death." The courtroom erupted. Patricia's composure shattered, her face going white. "That's a lie," she shouted. "That's a complete fabrication." But Webb continued, producing the messages, the phone records, the financial transactions. The evidence was damning. Patricia had been directing the assistant to administer high doses of medication to Arthur, medication that was known to cause strokes in elderly patients. She'd been slowly poisoning him for months. M.A.R.K. stood up from the defendant's table, his face wild. "I didn't know," he said, his voice cracking. "I didn't know what she was doing.
She told me it was just to help him sleep."
She told me it was for his pain." The judge slammed his gavel. Order in the court. I watched M.A.R.K., his mask of self-righteous fury finally falling away. He was panicked, desperate, willing to sell his mother to save himself. It was pathetic. It was predictable. Patricia was taken away in handcuffs, her screams echoing through the courthouse. Richa Rode followed, his face blank with shock. M.A.R.K. was arrested as well, charged with conspiracy and fraud and a dozen other crimes. I stood outside the courthouse, the cold wind whipping around me, and watched the police cars drive away. My mother was there, her hand on my shoulder. M.A.R.G.A. Rhett was there, her face wet with tears. And H.A. Rold was there, standing at a distance, his expression unreadable. "Are you okay?" my mother asked. "I don't know," I said. "I think so." H.A. Rold walked over to me, his hands in his pockets. "You did it," he said. "You brought them down. I didn't do it alone." "No, you didn't. But you were the one who had the courage to start." I looked at him, the man who'd been my enemy, my ally, my shadow. "What happens now?" he shrugged. "I don't know. I've been playing this game for so long, I don't know how to stop. But for you, I think it's finally over." I walked to the edge of the courthouse steps and looked out at the city. The sky was gray and heavy, but there was a hint of sunlight breaking through the clouds. I felt lighter than I had in months. The weight of secrets finally lifted from my shoulders. But as I stood there, a thought occurred to me. The trust Arthur had left me. The money. The freedom. It was mine now, truly and completely. But I realized I didn't want it. Not the money, not the freedom. What I wanted was something I'd never had before. I turned to H.A. rolled.
The trust.
The money. I don't want it. He raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I mean I want to give it away. To marga ret. To Arthur's favorite charities. To anyone who needs it more than I do. H.A. rolled sta red at me, his expression unreadable. Reeves serious. I've never been more serious in my life. He was silent for a long moment. Then he nodded slowly. I think Arthur would be proud of you. I smiled. A genuine smile. The first I'd felt in months. Thank you. I walked back to my mother and marga ret, the three of us standing together on the courthouse steps. The sun was rising higher now, painting the city in shades of gold and amber. I felt the rmth on my face, the promise of a new beginning. The truth was finally out. The family that had tried to destroy me was in ruins. And I was free. Free to live my life on my own terms, without the shadow of their greed and lies hanging over me. My mother took my hand, her grip firm and rm. What do you want to do now? I looked at her, then at marga ret, then back at the city unfolding before me. I don't know, I said. But I'm ready to find out. And for the first time in my life, I meant it.